Okay, let's dive in. Picture this. Twin sisters. It's 1895 New York. And they both have this very particular visual thing going on. And naturally, they're both head over heels for the same guy.
Right.
So you have to ask, what happens when love, mistaken identity, and maybe just a touch of the absurd all collide?
It's definitely a recipe for something interesting, dramatic, maybe comedic, maybe both.
Exactly. And that's what we're exploring today. We're looking at Michael Arturo's Suttle House. It's described as a Victorian fable set right smack in the Gilded Age.
And the author's note itself kind of gives us a heads up, doesn't it? Suggests we should see it as, well, an allegory, something deeper about how women's roles were changing, that whole struggle for self-definition.
Spot on. And the key players, we've got Prudence and Abagail, twin sisters. And they share this, well, unique trait.
Yeah.
Monocular vision.
Yeah.
Sight only in the left eye for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Nathaniel Suttle. He's this wealthy industrialist, sort of the point of the triangle, you could say.
And you mentioned that visual detail when they face each other, sighted eye meets blind eye.
Yeah. It's visually arresting, isn't it? It really underscores their shared experience. But maybe also like a fundamental inability to fully see each other's point of view.
It's a powerful image. It suggests connection, sure, but also maybe this inherent asymmetry. Like they can never quite align perspectives, literally.
Right. So the setting is this incredibly rich, opulent New York City, 1895. And Prudence and Abagail, they're apparently the talk of the town.
Because of their wit and charm.
Exactly. Their wit, their laughter, and even this shared imperfection, it makes them captivating figures in high society.
You can imagine that growing up sharing that specific vision condition would create this really intense bond or reliance on each other.
Totally. They seem almost psychically linked sometimes, finishing sentences, moving together. But Arturo subtly weaves in this thread of competition too, especially when it comes to Nathaniel.
Ah, so the stage is set for conflict beneath the surface.
Pretty much. Which leads us to our mission for this deep dive, really. We want to unpack these, well, frankly, fascinating relationships in Suttle House, see how they reflect the times, pull out some surprising details, and get a handle on the deeper meanings.
Okay, so this unusual setup, Prudence, Abagail, Nathaniel, where do the first cracks start to appear?
Well, initially it looks pretty harmonious. They're all living together in this posh Fifth Avenue mansionette. But there's a difference. Abagail has this real wanderlust, always traveling.
Okay.
And Prudence, she's the opposite. Very attached to Nathaniel, very much a homebody, and she hates when Abagail leaves. It clearly makes her anxious.
So an immediate point of tension between the sisters' desires. One wants the world, the other wants stability at home.
Precisely. And they have this little joke between them, maybe not so little in hindsight. They say they need both pairs of eyes to properly keep an eye on Nathaniel.
Funny, but with a little edge maybe, hinting he might need watching.
That's how it feels. It plants a seed. And then comes the catalyst moment. Prudence overhears Nathaniel mumbling Abigail's name while he's asleep.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would do it. That playful joke suddenly turns pretty sour, I imagine.
Instantly. Jealousy, suspicion, it just floods in. Prudence is left wondering, is he cheating? With my own sister. Is this whole life a lie?
A really devastating thought. How does she try to find out? Does she confront Abagail?
She tries. But here's where that vision thing becomes crucial again. Prudence realizes that because of how they instinctively stand when talking sighted eye to blind eye, she's never actually really looked Abagail directly in the eye. Face to face, yes, but not true eye contact.
So it becomes this physical barrier to real connection, to trust.
Yeah, it's like this literal blind spot in their relationship, symbolizing the emotional distance and the difficulty they have in truly seeing, truly understanding each other.
That's fascinating how a physical detail becomes such a potent metaphor. So what does Prudence do next, fueled by this suspicion?
Well, she's been reading Sarah Brand's New Woman, though Arturo hints she might have missed some key bits because of her vision. Maybe only skimmed it with her good eye.
Okay.
And she comes up with this, well, Arturo calls it a daring plan. It's pretty out there.
I'm intrigued. What is it?
She decides she's going to travel abroad, just like Abagail often does. But, and here's the twist, she's going to go as Abagail, impersonating her sister.
Whoa.
And while she's gone, Abagail will take her place, live as Prudence back in Suttle House with Nathaniel. A full identity swap.
Okay, that's audacious. A classic setup for confusion, drawing on those comedic traditions you mentioned, but with potentially huge personal stakes.
Exactly. So Prudence sets off, And interestingly, she finds herself drawn to Selsac, and particularly Shakespeare's The Comedy of Errors.
Ah, the play about identical twins and mistaken identity. Very fitting.
Right. It's like she's seeing her own life reflected in this farce. And while she's in Selsac, still playing the role of Abagail, she has an affair.
Really? With whom?
A Sicilian actor named Arturo. And Arturo notes that she feels weirdly little guilt about it. It's almost like being Abagail gives her permission.
Like the costume lets her step outside her own morality. The persona takes over.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But the affair doesn't last long. Eduardo, being an actor, basically says he prefers illusions to real life and breaks it off.
Okay.
Prudence is a bit let down, but strangely, she finds this odd satisfaction in seeing how much her situation mirrors the chaos in the Comedy of Errors.
So not regret, but almost artistic appreciation for the mess she's in. That's quite a reaction.
It is. But things take a much darker turn when she gets back to New York. Something's visibly changed.
How so?
It's bizarre. Prudence seems to have aged dramatically in just 6 months, while Abagail looks younger.
Whoa, okay, that's not just psychological toll. That sounds almost supernatural, or at least heavily symbolic. The deception is literally aging one and rejuvenating the other.
It feels that way.
Yeah.
And this leads to a huge fight, a physical one. During the struggle, they somehow end up with identical cuts right under their sighted eyes.
Wow, that mirroring again, but violent this time. A physical manifestation of their fractured bond.
And then Abagail starts making these bombshell claims. First, she blurts out that Nathaniel ravaged her every night.
Good grief.
But then she immediately backtracks, corrects herself, says no, it was Nathaniel acting as if Prudence was Abagail. They were role-playing, apparently inspired by seeing Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest.
Earnest, with its themes of double lives and fabricated identities for romance. Okay, so Nathaniel was playing along with the deception, thinking he was engaging with Prudence, playing Abagail. The layers here are getting dizzying.
Completely dizzying. The argument just gets worse, insults fly, and then Abagail delivers the final blow.
What now?
She confesses that she pretended to be Prudence multiple times, way back when Nathaniel was first courting them, specifically at Delmonico's restaurant.
No. So, the very foundation of Prudence's relationship, it might have been built on Abagail's impersonation from the start.
Exactly. It throws everything into question.
Yeah.
Did Nathaniel ever fall for the real Prudence, or was it always partly Abagail?
And Delmonico's, that specific location becomes important, doesn't it?
Hugely important. Arturo really zooms in on Delmonico's. It wasn't just any restaurant. It was America's very first fine dining place, the absolute pinnacle of high society and Gilded Age extravagance in 1895.
A powerful symbol of wealth, status, everything they were immersed in.
But Arturo uses more than just its reputation. He focuses on its architecture. The building had this unique triangular shape, right where Beaver, William, and South William Streets met.
A triangle.
Yeah, and he uses that shape, that literal triangle, as this really potent symbol for the three of them. Prudence, Abagail, Nathaniel, their whole tangled relationship.
That's clever. The physical space reflecting the emotional geometry. It suggests maybe that the environment itself plays a role.
That seems to be exactly what Arturo's suggesting. Like the very structure of the place they frequented somehow echoed or even influenced their dynamic. Abagail actually claims this.
Claims what?
She claims the triangular design basically doomed any marriage Nathaniel entered into, that it was fated to be a menage a trois because of the building's influence.
Wow, it's quite a deterministic view, blaming the architecture for the affair.
It is, and she says that's why she decided to just embrace being the other woman. She found some kind of, I don't know, perverse security or satisfaction in that role, knowing it was somehow preordained by the place itself.
That's a twisted justification, but it fits the increasingly bizarre logic of their situation. How does Prudence react to this?
She doesn't believe it at first, but then she remembers Delmonico's, not just the shape, but specifically seeing it as this imposing Gothic edifice with a leering gargoyle on it. And it's like, suddenly, maybe Abagail's crazy theory doesn't sound so crazy. Maybe their connection was tied to that place, maybe even cursed by it.
That image of the gargoyle adds a really sinister, almost supernatural layer, like a silent witness or symbol of the darkness in their deception. So Prudence is starting to believe the place itself is implicated.
It seems that way. So she finally decides she has to tell Nathaniel everything, the whole identity swap, Abagail's earlier impersonations, all of it.
To clear the air, finally?
Yes, but she doesn't get the chance. He speaks first.
And says what?
He confesses that he loves them both.
Okay. Maybe not entirely shocking at this point, given everything.
Right, he tries to explain it. He says Abagail, by playing a role, somehow breathed new life into his love for Prudence. It's a very confused justification.
So the deception paradoxically rekindled his feelings in his mind.
Apparently. He even admits he got totally confused about who was who. He asks Prudence, like, how is he supposed to tell them apart anyway?
That almost absolves himself of responsibility, doesn't it? Puts the onus on their identical appearance and their games.
It does feel a bit like that. And when Prudence tries to tell him about her affair with Eduardo, the actor, he's completely indifferent, doesn't care about her infidelity. His only concern is whether she might have damaged Abigail's reputation by using her name.
Wow. That shows where his priorities lie, or at least how blurred his perception of them has become.
Totally blurred. He even admits he'd been dreaming about Abigail, picturing her wearing Prudence's underwear. He basically says he sees them as one woman in two bodies.
That's deeply unsettling. It reduces them, objectifies them almost, into interchangeable parts of a single fantasy for him.
It really does. After all this comes out, Prudence just kind of withdraws. She moves into a separate room in the house. And eventually, tragically, she loses her sight completely, goes totally blind.
Oh, wow. A complete retreat from the world she could no longer make sense of, perhaps. What happens to Abigail and Nathaniel?
Well, in another strange twist, Abigail becomes Prudence's primary caretaker. And as she does this, her right eye, the blind one, miraculously starts to gain sight.
Really? So as Prudence loses sight, Abigail gains it. A kind of symbolic exchange, maybe representing clarity or healing the rift between them.
It certainly feels symbolic. And Nathaniel, the book says he undergoes a metamorphosis, finds a sort of peace and joy in finally living honestly side by side with Abigail.
So they stay together.
They do. They never marry, but they live together, seemingly content, their lives forever marked by that whole experience, and yes, the memory of Delmonico's.
An unconventional ending, for sure. What about Prudence?
She eventually passes away, peacefully, according to the text, leaving behind this really complex legacy of love, deception, and tangled identities in Suttle House.
So wrapping this all up, Suttle House really digs into identity, doesn't it? How slippery it can be, how easily it's shaped by deception, by societal pressures on women at the time, and the often bizarre ways relationships can bend and reshape themselves.
Absolutely. And all seen through that unique filter of the twins' shared vision, or lack thereof, and using Delmonico's as this powerful, almost architectural symbol of their tangled dynamic.
And like you said, Arturo manages to blend serious themes with this almost farcical comedic element, drawing on everything from Italian comedy traditions, commedia dell'arte, to Oscar Wilde's wit, even hints of, like, American sitcom structures.
Yeah, it's quite a mix. It really shows how humor can be used to explore some pretty complex and sometimes dark aspects of human nature and relationships.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought for you listening. Consider how often external things, maybe not a building shape, but societal norms, unspoken expectations, even just the spaces we inhabit might subtly shape our own relationships, our own sense of self.
Right. What are the unseen triangular forces, maybe, that influence the dynamics you navigate every day?
Yeah.
It's definitely something worth mulling over.